Welcome, 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 everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Lunch and Learn, Disinfect, plus Protect Your Business with the Nano Nation Canada. The Peterborough Chamber of Commerce and the Kawartha Chamber of Commerce and Tourism have partnered together to bring this event to all of you today. We are recording this event, so if you know someone that should see this, if you want to pass it off to your staff to watch, you can watch for the playback. We'll have that out later today. We'll put it on all our social channels so you get access to it. Thank you so much, Nano Nation, everyone here today. That being said, I'm going to turn it right over to my friend at the Kawartha Chamber of Commerce and Tourism, Nigel. Welcome, Nigel.
Hey, thank you, Tiffany. It's obviously very exciting to be here, be part of this. So hopefully everyone finds it very informative and educational. With that, I'm just going to introduce who our panel is today. So we have Chelsea Rushke. She is a Science Innovation Specialist, CEO of Voren Group. I'll let her get into some more details shortly about herself. David Pavlich, National Sales and Marketing with Bacoban. And then Nano Nation's Steve Daynes, who some may know from the area. He is a member at both our chambers as well. So we're excited to have this panel. They're a very esteemed group. So thank you guys for being here and doing this. And with that, I'll hand it over to you to take away the presentation.
Really appreciate it. I feel like this is a really interesting story about collaboration all the way through. So we're really pleased to have a really strong partnership with Steve at Nano Nation. As a manufacturer, everyone in business knows how important it is to have a really strong distribution channel. So just a quick anecdote about Steve and Nano Nation. There is no distributor out there that works as hard as they do to spread the word about Canadian-made products and be a part of their community. So it's been a pleasure to work with Steve and get to know him. But we're here to talk about today not only our collaboration between Voren Group, which is the exclusive manufacturer of Bacoban in Canada. It's a disinfectant, but also Nano Nation services and additional product offering that complements disinfectants that are used on hard surfaces. One really prominent thing that you'll notice right away in the top corner of our slides is the Made in Canada figure. We're really proud about this. It's actually an Ontario-made product. So we are working with some good folks in Lindsay, Ontario right now, part of the Made in Ontario platform, which we'll talk about a bit later. But we also have a presence in Alberta, which is where I'm from, although I'm talking to you today from Vancouver. And we also manufacture in the Okanagan. So we've got a great spread across the country. But clearly Ontario has been pretty hard hit during this time. And so today what I wanted to step through is a couple things. Supply chain and the importance of having Canadian-made goods. We want to talk about the actual disinfecting world. What's changed? Where is it going? What is going to be the future of disinfecting in our lives and businesses? And then also some novel, newer technology that's come out that's really going to be a game changer for, our lives in the new world, whereby, there's a lot of technological advances. So first and foremost, about Bacoban, just at a ground level, you'll see 6 really prominent attributes of this product. We have a very significant aerospace history. So this product has been around for a decade. So it's new to Canada and holds approvals and authorizations for sale by Health Canada. However, it's been developed quite a number of years ago, almost going on 15 years now, and has a long list of premium aerospace and airline clients. So when we say extensively tested, we kind of like to say that it's the Olympics of testing in a sense, because that's timely right now with the sports going on. So, approvals from Boeing, Bombardier, Airbus, Embraer. And those tests are really focused on surface compatibility. And it's a pretty obvious example to highlight, but when you're in an airplane at 30,000 feet, anything that you put onto steel or rubber seals or acrylics and plastics in such a safety critical aircraft needs to be extensively tested to make sure it doesn't embrittle, corrode, damage, degrade. And that's for all of our health and safety. So thank goodness that they do that. Bacoban holds those approvals. So we do service top airlines throughout the world, and we're really proud of that. It's been in use for quite some time, and we're growing our reach now with several specialty carriers in Canada and a national carrier as well. Bacoban is also approved for use in hospitals and healthcare facilities, and actually got its start in the hospital space just by virtue of the company having a reach into antimicrobial curtains and pretty innovative materials. They were asked to develop a disinfectant, and this is how Bacoban was born. So that is important to note, because I mean, that is a higher, it's a safety sensitive, and there's a lot of pathogens that they need to manage in an environment like that. Obviously, we're all talking also about hospital acquired infections and how that's been really problematic to deal with. So we do have some hospital and healthcare facilities as clients currently. Water-based products and without volatile organic compounds is a huge trend that we're seeing in the market for a few reasons. First of all, transport. So dangerous goods, there's a cost to it. There's handling and storage criteria that are more difficult to meet. So we see a lot of water-based products. We're not necessarily unique in that setting, but it's certainly something to highlight. And along with the aerospace testing, the interiors of cars, including leather, vinyl, dashes, etc., as well as exterior paint, is a surface that Bacoban is suitable for. Food processing use is a really growing market for us, supporting a lot of the hospitality sector as they get back to normal. And thank goodness for that, because I think we're all due for a good meal out. And then on the electronic side, under normal use, you know, this is really powerful on keyboards, cell phones, electronic tablets, and any kind of screens. So this is just some highlight reel items about the product and how it's got a foothold in the market currently. Now, you know, I don't want this to be a sales pitch, so I really want to go into some of the data and what we're seeing in the market as Canadians. So this is a pretty staggering number, and we're going to launch into supply chain security, how we can be a part of our 2.0 economy going forward and have greater stability of supply for all of our communities. Now, this slide is just a direct screenshot from StatsCan, where they're talking about the units used of disinfecting wipes and the predictive requirements for a 4-month reference period. So on a monthly basis, if you kind of look at this at a high level, there's 300 odd million disinfecting wipes, individual wipes, being used every month. Now, this is a stat for business consumption. This doesn't even include consumer goods. So why is that? Convenience is really prominent driver for disinfecting wipes having such a large swath of the market and a large demand for it. Portability, you know, less adjunct products required like cloths, paper towel, etc. So you have basically a 2-in-1 solution. So this has been a pretty big challenge for businesses. As we look at the future slides that I'll put up here, the shortages on this particular category have really been problematic. So the solution is to ensure that we have more or shorter, I should say, supply chains to get it into the businesses in our communities. And that's really done through sourcing locally and helping businesses like ours and Nano Nation to grow, right? So that we can be there in the future. I think this is going to continue to be a high demand category. And we're happy to report that we do have an approved product for sale in this segment. So again, the need is really obvious, but it's not just the need to keep the doors open, but it's really about survival. So critical PPE has been a great topic of conversation, not great, but it's been a prominent topic of conversation throughout the pandemic. In the service sector, you know, almost all businesses were required to have some sort of disinfecting protocol just to stay open. And going forward, that's not necessarily going to change. Retail trade and food service demand was also a critical part of the draw on the market. And where is that product all coming from? You know, this is really where the question lies around consumer supply from domestic sources and imports. Like I said, the shortages have been pretty vast. We've all heard about the respirators, gloves. This stat is actually from May 2021. So everyone might think that the pandemic demand curve is ramping down. But in May 2021, this bar graph shows the concerns over shortages in the next 3 months, so June, July, August. So we're currently living this curve right now, and we still see disinfecting wipes and certain high need PPE items being perceived to have a large concern for a shortage in the next period of time, even though we see restrictions easing and vaccination rates climbing. I found that pretty interesting. And here's the big number. This is hundreds of millions of dollars in imports in the last year, from June 2019 to June 2020. We're seeing almost $1 billion of imports, and that number has almost doubled during the pandemic. Going forward, we have a lot of hygiene and health awareness, and it's a category that has several drivers. So increased knowledge around the benefits of better hygiene is one. You also have free cash flow, so spending habits as people have more available cash. This is actually a segment of the market that sees an increase in expenditure as people have more free funds to put out there. And, I think by virtue of the categories that we talked about, disinfectant and sanitizer does create the largest import value, but there's certainly a large demand, hundreds of millions of dollars of imported wipes in the period before the pandemic really had its full effect. So I'm very curious to see the full breakdown of stats as we get closer to I think it'll be September of this year when they release the next report. I hate to say it, but like most people, it's pretty obvious that we've had a very hard year, and we're probably really tired of talking about this. But I want to highlight that it's more than just SARS-CoV-2 and COVID that is the demand driver for this product. I mean, we don't eat at restaurants that don't properly, disinfect and sanitize surfaces. We still have a wide array of pathogens that can create illness and serious lost time, morbidity, mortality. This is not going to end just with the pandemic. So I wanted to just share a couple really shocking statistics about the pathogen lifespan on surfaces. MRSA, which is a resistant pathogen, has about a 9-day lifespan on surface. So that's, more than enough time to find a host. Staph, most species about 7 months. C. diff, which is a really difficult to kill spore, is about 5 months on surfaces. VRE is another resistant bacteria. So the vancomycin resistant enterococci is 4 months. Norovirus, which we've all heard a lot about in the last few years, is 3 weeks. And the data on SARS-CoV-2 is varied based on whether it's a soft surface or a hard surface, but it can be days to weeks. So should we still be focused on surface disinfection after COVID? Yes. It has a major impact on human health if we can control bacteria, viruses, and fungi in the areas that we live, work, and play. And I think while we've been very educated about viruses, this product, both products that we're talking about today, Bacoban and Pathine, are effective on fungi. And so there's, a lot of negative health implications of being exposed to these materials just as much as there is to bacteria. So I think that as an all-around cleaner, there's a lot of great products out there that people will continue to demand. And again, we got to focus on the worker health and safety. So like using products that have less impact to human respiratory health, skin health, surfaces not getting damaged. I mean, there's a lot of attributes here that are to be considered, but in short, yes, we're still going to be focused on disinfection and sanitizing after COVID. I don't think it's going away. I think that we're just going to see better products out there. This stat is also really obvious, and I'm sure most people have talked about this with friends going, oh my gosh, I haven't got sick for 1.5 years. Shocking, it's because we're washing our hands and we're wiping down surfaces and we're keeping our distance from one another. We're very, very conscious of germs. And so while it's been an absolute difficult and awful time, the outcomes of this are heightened hygiene protocols, greater awareness of how to take care of our health, And obviously the flu watch report for last year saw record low numbers, simply because the pandemic itself generated a lot of outbreak control mechanisms naturally for us. So hopefully going into the future, we continue to retain some of this so that we can simply have a healthier, more, economically viable community for everybody. I find this one really shocking. We've had a lot of education, like consumer education on disinfectants is probably higher if you were to give people a test now than ever in history, because we've had to learn how to read labels and we've had to be selective about where we source our products from. But the big one here is, what's the difference between a sanitizer and a disinfectant? This is a control sample of 1 million colony forming units, and with sanitizing, it will take 1 million units down to 1,000. And so that's what that looks like. When we say 99.99% kill rate for disinfectants, what it means is a log 4 reduction, which is taking 1 million units down to 100. And that is really important to note. There is a difference between sanitizers and disinfectants, and I think that people have probably largely gotten up to speed on this. However, at a recent conference, it's still a prominent topic of discussion because there remains a lot of confusion in the market about what does that 99.99% mean? It's a reduction factor. Sanitizers reduced to 99.9 or a log 3 reduction. So there is a tangible difference between those two categories of products and how they operate. I'm really passionate about this, so I'm just going to share with you, a very big problem that isn't being talked about nearly as much as COVID. And it's called the silent pandemic. Antimicrobial resistance is a top 10 World Health Organization focus point. So meaning this is one of the top 10 problems in the world to battle in the next generation, or hopefully shorter than that. And what it means is that when we look at our bacterial infections, a full 1 in 4 infections is resistant to first-line antimicrobials. So that means that when you have a bacterial infection, the doctor provides or gives you a script of some kind, it will not respond. 1 in 4 infections are no longer responding to first-line antimicrobials, or antibiotics, I should say. This report was from the Council of Canadians in 2018, just showcasing exactly what I said, but we're going to dig into these numbers a little bit more and talk about why this is a much larger problem than we might realize, and a real area of opportunity that our business wants to have a material impact in this space. So of those resistant infections that I just described in the previous slide, 14,000 people died. That is a pretty staggering number in the context of what we've just gone through in the pandemic. And I'm sorry, but I don't have the stat in front of me right now, but I think that, you guys can all look it up on your cell phones as I go through this and call it out later, but Dave maybe will do that for me. However, it's a really staggering number that isn't talked about as much. And so I guess the point here is that there's significant economic and social impacts. These are not infections, by the way, that are just the standard run-of-the-mill stuff. It causes a really large decrease in quality of life. People obviously die, so there's a higher mortality rate. There's workforce participation issues. Families that have a member that's contributing economically will be much worse off if this is to occur in their family. So there's generational impacts. So this is just a large problem that doesn't necessarily need to be as substantial as it is. The Council of Canadians report every year gives a little bit of a report card about whether or not by individual pathogen things are getting better or worse. And for most measures on here, it's all categories have been getting worse in terms of their control and their spread and just overall impact. So that's concerning to me. And you'll see how this is all going to wrap together in a second. But essentially, our business, Voran Group, because this is such a prominent problem and an area that any kind of use of chemicals or any kind of drugs in the market have to be carefully managed because they're all a potential contributor to resistance. So what we want to do is see a world where there's less opportunity for a pathogen to meet a human host, or less opportunity for a pathogen to mutate and pass on resistant genes. So while we aren't the scientists that are the smart people out there researching all of this, we're definitely the company that's contributing our dollars back into all those smart people out there. So we formed a relationship with the good folks at the University of Calgary, and we will be donating a portion of our profits annually to their One Health consortium. The really great thing about One Health is that it's a global initiative. So any research that is pooled into One Health is accessible through, almost like a wiki of sorts. So it goes a lot further than just fragmented research here and there. And so the University of Calgary has a really prominent role to play, and we're very proud of the work that they're doing. And we're a very small part of just funding that they're going to receive. But as we grow, we can, shuffle more that way as well. So it's really exciting. Back to just a couple of highlight things here, and I'll quickly wrap up here before we turn it over to Steve, who's got a great additional offering to talk about. Wanted to emphasize that there is, like I said, a very high degree of scrutiny placed on aerospace disinfectants. So we've had a lot of reviews and approvals updated during the pandemic. Boeing and Bombardier especially have really latched onto this product in terms of, not latched on, I should say, but we've passed all of the requirements to be an effective disinfectant for their particular aircraft. And that does translate well into other modes of transportation, whether that's transit, train, boat, there's a lot of similar materials. So really what those tests are is corrosion of steel and aluminum surfaces, embrittlement of acrylics, discoloration of plastics, softening of paint. So it's actually approved for use on the outside of aircraft if they really needed to do that for any reason. And then also a variety of leather and naugahyde and those sorts of surfaces that are inside a plane. It passes and it won't discolor, embrittle, deteriorate. So that's important to note. I think that's very unique about what we offer. On the health side, we've probably seen quite a bit of discussion about VOCs. But maybe people are wondering, like, what is the real big impact? Well, anyone that has any kind of respiratory sensitivity will notice the effects pretty immediately. Shortness of breath, dizziness, fatigue. I do find it, just anecdotally, fairly interesting that, for a long time, we've had like scent-free offices with really strict, protocols in place because people are very sensitive to scents and VOCs, and now we've got a lot of chemicals that are floating around the office spaces that we work in. So I think that it's worthwhile to note that we need to focus on all aspects of our disinfectant use, whether that's content, active ingredients, the outcomes such as the noxious fumes. That's really important, I think. We have been really fortunate as a company in the last year to work with some of the top institutions in the world to advance our understanding of the disinfectants, effect on skin, how it operates within an in situ facility, like such as really prominent sporting facilities, like doing live studies. And just very recently, we finished a safety evaluation with Dr. Jaggi Rao, who's a board certified dermatologist. The conclusions that he drew were from a third-party desktop review at an arm's length. So we provided him our reporting and data, and he also did a research on the actual active ingredients and the formulation that we have. And it was concluded that it's non-irritating and does not cause acute dermatitis on human tissue contact. Those tests were actually pretty long duration. So there was a 40-minute patch test on a sample of people from age 25 to 72, I think, 72 years old. And so that's a really great track record there. And obviously, as we use a ton of disinfectant wipes and products, yes, there is an opportunity to glove up, but in real life, most people are not doing that, unfortunately. So these studies are important because it really translates into like how are the regular users interacting with the product. So that's worth noting. And we like to say, you know, disinfectant of the future. We have a very big focus on advancing this industry, not only from our important partnerships with distributors, but also collaboration with research facilities like the U of C, the U of A, UBC, to really get a better understanding of a few things. You know, what's our impact on antimicrobial resistance? Is it positive or negative? And obviously, we're going to be seeing a lot of visualization studies as well as in situ studies come out of that. But also, I wanted to note for anyone on this call who might be able to have an impact here, this is a really important thing. Our access to GLP labs so that we can advance drug-related products or clinical trial applications is a very big problem. It has taken an immense amount of time to access these facilities that are required to get further updates and approvals from Health Canada. So I'm pretty passionate about needing to see this gap stopped and resolved, because we have had to wait a pretty substantial amount of time and take our very large research project to a different country just to advance our position in the market. And I think that there's an opportunity here for Canadians to have greater number of GLP certified labs. And the difference here is that university labs actually can't stamp these kinds of applications for a drug identification number or a clinical trial application. It has to be a GLP certified lab. And we have a huge shortage of that right now. So reach out to me if you have any ideas on that. I would love to chat. But I think also our future look ahead is that we have a very big focus on Ontario. We've got a great partner in Nano Nation. We have, you know, significant manufacturing capabilities and reach. And so we are working really hard right now to get the word out there and ensure that more Canadians have access to a high quality disinfectant like Bacoban. On that note, we had a catch up with Dennis Darby, who's the president and CEO of the Canadian Manufacturers and Exporters. Great quote there about the importance of the Ontario made logo. And if you haven't had a chance yet, I would really encourage everyone to check out supportonteriomade.ca. So far, in a pretty short amount of time, I think it's couldn't be more than 6 months, maybe, Dave. 10,000 products have been added, 2,300 manufacturers represented. So I think the takeaway for me was just simply going onto that website and realizing how many things are made in Ontario that, you know, businesses source on an everyday basis. So it's in an exercise just in a little bit of knowledge, but you might find a more reliable, closer to home supplier in the process. So Bacoban is approved on that website as an Ontario-made product, and we're really happy to be part of that program. Okay, so we are going to just pivot here a little bit to talk about a two-step process that Steve's company offers. So first of all, Bacoban is a product carried by Nano Nation. They are a distributor for Bacoban. Steve also represents a product called Pathene, which is a long-acting coating that is used to protect surfaces for a longer duration of time. And so how we came to be partners in this whole thing is that Steve wanted to know, could we clean with Bacoban and then use the Pathene? And so yes, that is the answer. And this is the offering that Steve has as both a supply and a service company. So I'd love Steve to tell a little bit more about his story here, because I think it's a good one. And then we will walk through a couple slides just on the attributes of Pathene, which is, like I said, a two-step offering to clean with Bacoban and then long-term protection with Pathene. Steve, are you there?
Yep. Thanks, okay. Chelsea. I just wanted to thank everyone for joining in. And Chelsea, it's great to have you part of this and your support through it. So thank you. So Nano Nation has been is an Indigenous-owned company, which I think is important to note. And we started in the beginning of January of 2020, so just before COVID, and part of our focus was on hotels, so that we could go in and apply our product to the curtains, the carpet, and key one for me was the carpet and the mattress. Because once we were able to disinfect, then we were able to apply our product, Pathine, which lasts up to 90 days on the surface, which does not allow pathogens to mutate. And so I've learned an awful lot of science in the last couple of years. But then COVID came along, and I realize everyone's focused on COVID. Obviously, what's going on is very unfortunate and heightened. But I was just speaking with our medical doctor advisor, and he's even noted that COVID continues to mutate, and this is not going away anytime soon. And Chelsea, as you highlighted, this doesn't stop us from the need to continue our practices of hygiene. And so Pathine is a way to not only have the disinfecting done, but it allows for a nano coating over a surface so that as a molecule lands on it, it actually shreds it and electrocutes it and kills on contact. And so, Chelsea, if you're able to actually maybe share the video,
yeah,
that would be great.
No
I'm going to
problem.
play a real quick video here.
Okay, hopefully the audio, everyone can hear. Give me a thumbs up.
Is a unique antimicrobial that provides a barrier of protection that's highly effective and has a safety profile that's unequaled. Here's how it works. The shield forms its protection through 3 functional elements. First, the base layer is a covalent bond that permanently affixes to the surface, enhancing it for the life of the item it's applied to. Second, by cross-linking to the base layer. And lastly, by creating a durable 18-link carbon chain with a positively charged nitrogen atom at its base. This newly formed surface sets up a cationic, or positively charged surface, that creates 2 lasting benefits. The first is a clean base layer that makes removal of dirt, grime, and other organisms as easy as wiping with water. And second, the matrix of swords that provide the tool for solid microbe control. This mode of action against mold, mildew, algae, fungus, and other odor-causing bacteria works without harmful chemicals, biocides, or poisons. The positive nitrogen atom magnetically draws microbes to the surface with an attraction strong enough to destroy a microbe by first piercing and then electrocuting the offender. The rapid destruction of odor-causing germs provides for odor control that is not available through traditional chemicals. Traditional antimicrobials work by leaching or off-gassing to deliver a poison for microbial control. These older technologies are narrow in their scope of effectiveness, with some only working on fungus and others on a limited range of bacteria. Some common chemistries even allow for organisms to adapt, thus creating superbugs in our environment. This begs the question of what value using heavy metals, toxins, and pesticides bring when they can allow for unwanted elements to be reintroduced into the environment. Microbes must have a receptive surface to survive. A surface with a shield is completely inhospitable to microbes, effective without poisons. The physical mode of action provided by the shield disallows adaptation and does so safely as well as dependably. The safety science behind this technology has been documented for decades, as its functional elements are effectively sand or silica, wood or carbon, and nitrogen. Finally, a safe and wise choice for microbe control that is as easy to maintain as wiping with water and works for you 24/7. Anywhere clean is important. In your home, in places you visit, in places you work, in places you learn, in places you want to feel well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Is a unique antimicrobial.
Sorry about that.
So, I mean, the video's explained an awful lot there very quickly, but I wanted to also highlight that many of you will know me from the Peterborough community. And, it's important that for me that we're giving back to our community. And I think that this is another way of bringing a product locally that can help protect our staff. Even the doctor even mentioned the other day that it's protecting our pets from different pathogens and whatnot. So it's a very useful product. I think that it's also important that, you know, I highlight that there's employment that has happened because of bringing this product to Peterborough. Because it is, you know, not only have I engaged some sales staff, I've also engaged a media person. You know, we've been out in the media world, so we've had purchased advertising. So there's a lot of touch points that we have been able to achieve. And I think that that's important, that, you know, we not lose sight of the fact that at the end of the day, people are involved and people are impacted by the products that we're bringing. And hopefully it's saving people from getting any sort of virus.
Steve, if I could just add to that, like I will say, you know, the direct and indirect impact of the Chamber of Commerce is really something worth highlighting, like you mentioned. So obviously the direct impact being the business of Nano Nation, but you have a very large team behind you that I am really impressed with every time I get a chance to engage with them. PR, GR, your chief medical officer, you know, advertising, media, videography. So, I mean, this is the whole point of chamber events is like provide opportunities to get that linkage and understanding of what's available. And then B, recognize that it's not just a direct impact to a single business. Like it's just a very, very tight-knit community. So I did want to thank the chamber again for that, but also to vouch for the fact that Steve is not, he's walking the talk for sure.
Thank you. Yeah. And so, you know, Chelsea, I'd like to probably just circle back around to you to really allow people the opportunity to know how the two products can work together and save time, but also give people a chance to get back to some pre-COVID type cleaning, as opposed to, you know, right now I watch in, you know, for instance, I was in the bank the other day, and as soon as the person left, someone's in behind them spraying the counter down. And, you know, this product does allow for that to not happen and get back to some normalcy of what we once knew. So
yeah, and I mean, the normalcy aspect that you're talking about there, Steve, I think is that there remains a need for, you know, products that are convenient in their format. So look, in no way, shape, or form is Steve saying cut some chicken on a cutting board and then leave the chicken juice on the board. Like this is, there's still going to be a need for products that clean visible dirt, right? So these long-acting coatings are a risk mitigation offering, right? So we're reducing the risk by, you know, using pathing, for example, that there's an opportunity for high-touch surfaces to be negatively impacted. Obviously, if there's visible dirt and like, what would be the technical word for grime? I'm missing it, but detritus, it needs to be removed. So yes, there's going to be a need for both. So how do they work together? Well, obviously with the convenient formats of Bacoban wipes, Bacoban sprays, it offers an opportunity for people to clean bathrooms, kitchens, high-touch surfaces, doors, screens, handles, all that stuff, right? When you need to do a deep clean. And then obviously pathing is there to provide a longer-term mechanism and a coating on the surface. I think what's great about your video there, Steve, is that it really highlights the science. You know, the covalent bond strength is really a key attribute about pathing. If you guys aren't chemists or don't have necessarily like the science knowledge, covalent bonds are where atoms share electrons. So it's the highest bond strength out there. It's on a magnitude of 10 to 100 times stronger than an ionic bond. and therefore is one of the key attributes of providing that long-term connectivity point to the surfaces that it protects. Again, the nano spikes that Steve talked about is a silane, so it's got very similar attributes to glass. So it's a inert substance that is approved for sale from the PMRA. So Steve's Pathene is a product that's been in market for quite some time now, I believe, Steve, right? And what's the years? Are you on mute?
Yes. Yeah, no, it's been in the marketplace for about 15 years now.
This slide probably does a better job. That's a long time. This slide does a better job maybe of summing it up, but you know, there's the polymerization with the surface is through the covalent bond and then cross-linking. So it forms a barrier that physically punctures. Steve, I did want to highlight to the folks on this call that are looking for something that is effective on, you guys have a C. diff claim, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so C. diff, Clostridium difficile, right, is one of the most difficult spores for hospitals to take care of. And so Pathene does have a kill claim on C. diff. So that's kind of like if you look at a gradation of tough to kill, C. diff is up there. I just want to highlight that. But I did want to leave some time for questions because we're running into about the last 15 minutes here, and also give the chamber a chance to say some last words. But Steve, through your services, you have kind of the best of both worlds. You have a patented spraying technology that creates a vapor and allows the product to penetrate deeply. And you do offer an electrostatic spraying service, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, great. And I do know from a regulations perspective that Ontario has been fairly leading edge in terms of the provincial approaches to electrostatic spraying. So if you want any information on that, just reach out to Steve. Yeah, just to wrap up, I mean, look, this is an opportunity for us to get together and share some amazing new products that are made in Ontario with an Indigenous-owned partner who's working night and day with his teams to get the word out there and provide services. So we just welcome the opportunity to talk more with all the attendees, and look forward to hearing from you if you require any additional information. But otherwise, I hope this has been at least informative, and you guys now all have some homework to go to the Ontario Made website and check out all the 10,000 products that are on there and see what else you can find as well. So are we going to do some questions, Tiffany?
Excellent. Yes, I was just getting unmuted. I get really excited about the Ontario Made. It's a big deal, and it's really exciting, and super grateful to all of you. But we did have a few questions come in. I got a couple of them, I think, came into me privately. I'm not too sure, but I've got a few for you here. One of the first questions we got was, do staff require specialty training to use the product?
I'll just answer Bacoban, then you can talk about Pathene. For Bacoban, no specialty training required. There's instructions for use on the label. Just follow the instructions on the label as you would with any other disinfecting product.
And for Pathene, I mean, we do recommend that we come in and at least apply the first application and train some staff members just to apply the product properly. But it's not like we're dressing up in hazmat suits or any type of training like that.
Excellent. And there was one other one that kind of dipped into training. It was, where is it here? Does Nano Nation offer additional training and protocols?
Yes. So we are actually trying to position ourselves as the disease mitigation service. And so we do have a good team of medical doctor. You know, I've really worked closely with Chelsea on a lot of things. So there is a good team behind to be able to come in, do an assessment, and provide some protocols from there.
Excellent.
Yeah, like actually on that note, you know, this is a growing trend that we are working really hard to address, and that is that companies need to have emergency preparedness protocols in place for the future. So we do receive a lot of requests for that. So I would encourage you to reach out to Nano Nation, and we'll offer any support that we can on our end as well. I think this is going to be a pretty big demand in the market. So I would welcome the opportunity to work with you on that, Steve.
Excellent. Thank you.
Wonderful. I had two more. If you're listening and a question pops to you, just drop it in the chat. I'll be sure to ask it for you. One of the other ones I had come up is a good one. Does the Baco Band spray work the very same as the wipes?
Yes. So the mechanism of action is the same. The difference is the convenience. No word of a lie. It's out of reach right now, but I travel with them everywhere I go, because you just don't have to bring anything else other than the package with you. So shameless plug, I know, but it's true.
You know what you like, and you believe in the product too. So I love that you're stocking that in your purse, because I would do the same thing.
Yes, it fits in most sizes and purses.
Chelsea, if I can add to that, you know, some of the feedback that I've had about the product has been that the wipes especially are a very high quality. Like I had to physically rip it apart and pull hard to rip it. Whereas I know in the marketplace, there's some other ones that are very thin that you go to wipe something and your hand goes through it. So, you know, it's a high quality product. And the one other thing I would note is, you know, people have come back and said the non-harsh or the no harsh vapors of the product, that the smell, the scent was, it was actually inviting as opposed to revolting. So
yeah, I mean, that's a really big one. I think that we've all gotten, well, now as we take off our masks, we start to notice it even more, but Bacoban is a light citrus scent. It's very, very mild. So if you're looking for like a really fruity kind of like cleaning product that you can smell for days, this isn't it. It's almost inert in terms of the scent.
And it's interesting that you brought up the scent, because I had someone ask if there was an unscented or a scent-free product for office spaces.
So currently Bacoban is all manufactured with a light citrus scent, but in the future we are really excited to offer new formulations that are scent-free. And I don't know about pathine, Steve.
And pathine is scent-free.
Okay, great.
Okay, great. That's a great option then, especially with the 90 days that you get out of that.
Yeah.
Excellent. That was all the questions that came into me. I'm just going to give a little quick peek and make sure I didn't miss any. And while I'm doing that, I just want to make sure Nigel from Kawartha Chamber of Commerce and Tourism didn't get a private question either, just to be sure.
No, I didn't get one privately.
We're good? Excellent.
Good.
Awesome.
I am so grateful. I'm grateful for your expertise, your brilliance. I think, was there something special at the end of this that maybe we were going to offer attendees?
Yes. So any chamber members can have a 10% discount off of any of the products or the services.
Amazing.
That is amazing. And that's for, yeah, chamber members. You heard it, 10% off. And Steve, if they're watching the playback of this, should they just kind of reach out to Nano Nation, let them know that they had watched this online?
Yeah, that would be great. And they can also go to nanonationcanada.com, or you can reach me at the office number, which is 705-243-7303.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us on the call today, Steve, David, Chelsea. It was great to have you. Really, really interesting to kind of see the science behind it all, and yeah, have that perspective. So check out Nano Nation Canada. Follow them. They're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, you name it. They're on there. If you get off this and you want to reach out to them, I can connect you as well. So lots of avenues to get connected to the Nano Nation team. And again, thank you so much, Chelsea, David, Steve. We really, really appreciate you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Take advantage of your 10% off Nano Nation, especially with businesses reopening. It's locally made. That's always a big driving force for me. That being said, just going to give you a few chamber announcements before we let you go today. Just going to do this. Perfect. So a couple chamber announcements before we go today. Next week, Chamber AM, Tuesday, August the 10th, 8 a.m. We've got Emily Martin from Showplace Performance Center talking a whole lot of things going on at Showplace. They've got new chairs, all that good stuff, but she's going to really do a deep dive on the performing arts, what we can expect, what they've been through, what we've seen. So if you love the performing arts and supporting Showplace, check it out, Chamber AM, 8 a.m. Tuesday. Speaker series is coming Wednesday, August the 18th, 12 o'clock. We're actually busting myths about Bitcoin and blockchain. You all have received at least one message about Bitcoin and blockchain on LinkedIn, I'm sure. So check it out. We're busting the myths. With InnoFin, 12 o'clock, August the 18th. LeaderCast kicks off again this year. Watch for leadership training. It is really cool. It's kind of like a book club, but we release these videos of motivational speakers, and then we get together a few days later and have a discussion around it with a bit of local focus. So LeaderCast kicks off at the end of August. Watch for that. Your COVID-19 resource portal, as the information comes down from your different levels of government, your Peterborough Chamber of Commerce and Kawartha Chamber of Commerce are breaking down that information for our chamber member businesses. Visit our websites if you need the information. Reach out to Nigel or myself. We are here for you. And watch the Kawartha Chamber next month, because their Gala Awards finalists are coming out. Congratulations, Kawartha Chamber. I can't wait to see your list of finalists. Cheer you on. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate all of you. I hope you have a great day. Get some coffee and reach out to your chambers if you need us. I don't need any more coffee, though.